Hello my yogis, and welcome to today's Towne yoga practice. I'm so happy you're here. This practice was designed specifically with my sister Keri in mind. My sister Keri is an avid runner. She's a distance runner, so this will be great for her because we're going to activate the muscles of your feet and then also some in the hips, especially the outside of your hips and glutes, as well as strengthen a bit of the core, which always keeps you in good running form. If you're not a distance runner, this practice is still great for you. Maybe you're new to running, or maybe you're just working on having good posture while you walk around on a daily basis. So no matter what brought you here, I'm happy you're here, and we're going to bring some attention to our feet, our hips, and our core today. So starting in mountain pose with your toes forward, your heels back, and just find your weight nice and even through your feet. They're about hip socket distance apart, about the distance of those hip bones on the front of your body. As you press down through your feet, we'll start to walk it out, just lifting one heel as you bend that knee, and then setting it down as you lift the other. Maybe you start to flow a little bit side to side, just kind of warming up the bottoms of your feet here. And then pausing back in stillness. We're going to take some vinyasas today, some gentle sun A salutations. So go ahead and come to the top of your mat. And back in that mountain pose with your toes forward, heels behind, feet are about hip socket distance apart. And just feel your navel lift up and back towards your spine. Your pelvic floor lifts up here. Feeling weight evenly through your feet. As you inhale, sweep your arms out, up, overhead, reaching to the sky. Maybe your palms come together. As you exhale, forward fold, belly tight, make your way down to the earth, hands to feet, chest to thighs. Head is nice and heavy, maybe a little bend in your knee. As you inhale, look forward and lengthen your spine, coming to that halfway lift. Strong belly, stretch in the hamstrings. As you exhale, plant your hands next to your feet, and then step back into your high plank. Take a moment here, feeling your wrist under your shoulders, your heels lifted up over your toes. Notice that they're falling in or out, and just try to get that alignment, stacking them on top. Lifting your belly up to the spine as you look to the top of your mat. Find your strength here for one more inhale. We're going to take a gentle vinyasa from here, exhaling your knees down so you're in a modified plank. Hips aren't stacked, but they're a little in front, belly's lifting up to spine. Bend your elbows back towards your ribs as you send your heart forward and down, lowering your chest, then chin. Releasing your belly, untuck your toes, feel your heels pointing up. Drawing your elbows in, inhale, lift to your cobra. Exhale, come back to your tabletop or come to your tabletop. This time hips are stacked over knees. Tuck your toes and press back to your downward facing dog. In downward facing dog, you can walk it out a little here, bending one knee and then the other. Just feeling a stretch first through the bottoms of your feet as you walk it out here, pressing your heels to and from the earth. Take one more breath, walking out your dog, until you pause in stillness. My dog sighed at that. He said, if you're going to walk a dog, it should be me. From here, as you press your chest back to thighs, look to your hands and inhale forward to your plank. We're going to take one more of those gentle vinyasas, exhaling your knees down, elbows back to ribs as your heart comes forward and returns to your mat. Untuck your toes as you inhale, lifting your chest, cobra pose. Exhale back through your tabletop, tuck your toes and return to downward facing dog. Yogi's choice if you'd like movement or stillness here. If you've chosen movement, pause in stillness for a moment. And we're going to stretch all the way to the top of our mat. So as you look to your hands, bend your knees and take lots of small steps, stretching your feet and the back of your legs along the way. Until you look forward on your inhale, find that halfway lift along the spine. Exhale down into your forward fold, bending at your knees if you have tight hamstrings on the backs of your legs. We'll reverse our swan dive. As you inhale, look forward, lifting up through chin and chest. Sweep your arms out, up, overhead. And then exhale your palms down through heart center and to your sides, taking one breath here in your mountain pose. We're going to take that same Sun A flow with those vinyasas, but instead of gentle, we're going to add a little challenge, maybe keeping the knees lifted, if that feels good to you today. As you inhale, sweep your arms out, up, overhead. Exhale, forward fold, belly tight as you make your way down to the earth. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen your spine, strong belly. Exhale, plant your hands and step back into your high plank, pausing for a breath. Again, feeling your heels stacked up over your toes, a nice stretch through your feet. Maybe you keep your knees lifted this time. Send your heart forward, bend your elbows back to the ribs, and in one straight line, lower all the way down. As you untuck your toes, slide your hands back just a little so they're almost under your elbows. Draw your elbows in towards each other and inhale, lift your chin and chest. You can pause here or extend your arms straight. Your hips come up as well for an upward facing dog. If you've taken upward facing dog, draw your navel up to spine to protect your low back. And then continue lifting up through your navel, hips rise as you tuck your toes under and come back to your downward facing dog. Taking one more vinyasa here. Look forward, inhaling to your plank. Exhale, straight line as your elbows come back to your ribs and you lower all the way to the earth. Untuck your toes. Inhale, lifting to your upward facing dog. Navel's drawn up to your spine. Continue to draw it up as you exhale. Tuck your toes under. Back to your downward facing dog. From here, look to your hands, bend your knees, and maybe take a few bigger steps to the top of your mat. Finding that halfway lift when you do. Exhaling down into your folds. As you inhale, reverse your swan dive all the way up to standing again. And exhale, palms down through heart center and to rest at your sides. Taking a few grounding breaths here in your mountain pose. Beautiful. We're going to take that flow again, but we're going to start adding in now. We're going to add in some poses that really start to target the hips, but also your feet through balance. So I hope you feel nice and warm. Here we are. We're going to get started flowing again. As you inhale, sweep your arms out, up, overhead. Exhale, forward fold, belly tight, taking your path down to the earth. Inhale, halfway lift, extending your spine. And then exhale, plant your hands and step back into your high plank again. Feeling heels stacked over toes, maybe just shifting back and forward a little, stretching the bottoms of your feet. When you pause in stillness, exhale, downward facing dog, hips high, pressing down through all 10 fingers. And you'll notice my heels don't come down to the mat, not this early in my practice at least. So don't feel like you have to have your heels down on your mat. If you have a lift in your toes, that's completely fine. You're pressing your chest back towards your thighs. On your next inhale, lift your right leg up to the sky, flexing your toes to your shin. And then turn your toes to the right, stacking your hips on top of each other with straight legs. And just pulse this right leg a few times. You're going to feel that outside of your right hip engage here, your glute medius. When you're at the very top of your pulse, if your foot is above your knee, you can bend your knee, sending your right heel towards your left bum, keeping your gaze under your left armpit as you open your hips here. On your next inhale, square them back again, returning to three-legged dog with both hip points facing down towards your mat. This is the same hip setup we're going to have in our Warrior 3 in a little bit. As you exhale, draw your right knee to your nose, and then plant your right foot between your hands. Here we are in a runner's lunge. Feeling your back heel stacked over your toes again, your front knee right over your front heel. We're going to lift to our crescent lunge. So before you lift, engage your thighs, drawing them in towards each other so you have a nice strong base. As you look forward, inhale, arms sweep up, hips and shoulders forward. You have that bend in your front knee, your back leg is straight and strong, heels stacked over toes. Challenging your balance here. Take a nice big breath. To work the outside of the right hip particularly, we're going to come to a charging warrior with airplane arms. So release your arms down by your hips, palms face in. And then lean your chest forward about 45 degrees. You're going to start to feel the outside edge of that right hip. Doing a lot of work here, which is what we want. We want that straight line, ankle, knee, hip point. As the outer edge of your right hip gets heavy and works, pressing down through your heel, begin to lift your left toes up, sending your torso forward, finding your Warrior 3 with airplane arms, both hip points facing down. Challenging your balance a bit more, draw your left knee through the center line, lifting your hands up as you come to your stork pose. Take one nice big breath here. Stepping back to that charging warrior, exhale nice and slow, bending your right knee. Hands come to frame your hips as you step your left toes back behind you. And then inhale, rise back up to your crescent lunge. Taking a nice deep round of breath here. And we're going to enjoy a twist as you exhale your hands down to frame your foot. Plant your left hand to the earth and inhale your right fingers up to the sky. Your back heel is still lifted in this twist. Exhale your right hand down. We're going to come out the same way we came in, drawing your right heel up to your bum, and then kicking it back to a three-legged dog, pausing here again, toes flexed to shin. Turn your toes to the right as you pulse, stacking your hips before you bend your knee and feel a nice stretch through the front of your hips. Your back heel is still facing down to the earth and your gaze underneath your left arm. As you inhale, square your hips again, flexing your toes to your shin. And then exhale, release your right foot down. You can come to a child's pose or join me for a gentle vinyasa. Inhaling forward to your plank. Exhaling, knees, chest, chin down to the earth, elbows back to ribs. Untucking your toes as you inhale up to your cobra. And exhale back through your tabletop, tuck your toes and return to downward facing dog. We'll take a short child's pose before our second side. In extended child's pose, lower your knees as wide as your mat. Untuck your toes, bringing your big toes to touch. And then sit your hips back to your heels with your arms extended out in front. Taking one or two more slow rounds of breath here in your child's pose. On your next inhale, lift back up to hands and knees. Taking your knees under your hips, your wrist under your shoulders, your fingers gentle spread, pointing to the top of your mat. Tuck your toes and lift your hips back to your downward facing dog. We're going to take that same flow on our second side now. As you inhale, lift your left leg up to the sky, flexing your toes to your shin to start. And then turn your toes to the left, stacking your hips on top of one another, right heel still facing down to the earth. And pulse that top leg, feeling the outer hip engage here. When you reach the top of your pulse with your foot over your knee, go ahead and bend, feeling a nice stretch to the front of your hip as you look under your right arm, keeping your shoulders pretty square to the ground. Inhale back to a three-legged dog, both hip points facing down as you flex your toes to shin. And exhale, draw your knee to your nose, planting your left foot between your hands. If it doesn't get there, you can just walk it up until it does. And you'll know you're in the right spot when your knee is directly over your heel and your back heel is lifted up over your toes. Before coming to our crescent, feel grounding through your feet, drawing them in towards each other, creating some energy here as you look forward and lift up into your crescent lunge. No rush to get here, finding good form when you do. With your front knee bent over your heel, back heel lifted over toes, inner thighs engaging. Front knee is bent, back leg is straight and strong, as is comfortable for you. Take one more inhale here in your crescent. And then exhale your hands down to frame your hips. Leaning your chest forward about 45 degrees. Feel that outer edge of your left hip engage as you pause here. On your next inhale, lift your right toes up, coming to your warrior three with airplane arms. Flexing your toes to shin, both hip points facing down to the earth. As you inhale, right knee comes through the center, lifting your arms up. Finding a stork pose as you balance here. Stepping back nice and slow to that charging warrior. Exhale, bending your left knee. Right toes come back as your hands frame your hip. Leaning over your thigh. Before inhale, sweeping your arms up. Coming back to your crescent. Pausing here for a full breath. And then exhale your hands down to frame your foot. Your right hand plants to the earth. Sweep your left fingers up and find a nice twist. Feeling your back heel still lifted over toes. Exhale your hands down to frame. Coming out the same way we came in, take your heel to bum, and then kick back to your three-legged dog. Turn your toes to the left, stacking your hips, pulsing for a moment, before bending your knee and finding that nice open stretch. Pressing your hands both down through your mat. Inhale back to a three-legged dog, hips are square to the mat. Exhale your left foot down in yogi's choice, child's pose, or join me for a gentle vinyasa. Inhaling forward to plank. Exhaling knees, chest, chin, or maybe knees stay lifted this time. Inhaling to your cobra or upward facing dog. And exhaling to downward facing, maybe passing through your tabletop on the way. From here, go ahead and lower your knees down. And you're going to find a tabletop with your wrists just under shoulders and knees just under hips. Fix this again. Whew. And we're going to enjoy some full body circles here. So as you exhale, send your hips back towards your heels. As you inhale, sweep out to one side and then circle around to the opposite before you exhale around and back. Maybe you take that same flow, but you go a little deeper. As you come around, you'll walk your hands forward and then let your hips drop through the center before circling around and back. Enjoy a few more going just this one direction to start. And if you find any real tight spots, maybe pause and just take a few breaths there. or just flow, linking your movements with your breath. The next time you come to the back of your circle, go ahead and switch directions, inhaling off to the side, exhaling down and around. Take one more full round of circles. And then pause with your setting your hips back to your heels. Take your palms by your sides, face up. And lower your head down for a breath here in your traditional child's pose. If extended felt better, you can walk your knees out and extend your arms in front. From here, you're just going to roll up your spine until you come to seated on your heels, placing your palms in your lap. And that will end our practice today. You're welcome to come on to lying on your back, take a few of your favorite stretches, then maybe a final resting pose, just coming back to your breath on your mat. Or maybe you're up and ready to go for a run with your feet and hips nice and active to keep you in good posture throughout. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this practice, please share it with somebody else who you think could benefit. It'd also be great if you could like the video and subscribe to my channel. There's also a lot of unique supporter benefits for Towne Yoga. You can kind of get involved in my community. And a great way to do that is to visit towneyoga.com or head over to patreon.com and visit my Towne Yoga page. Thank you so much for joining. Take a moment with hands to heart center. And I'd like you to know that the light in me honors and respects the light in you. Namaste. You're a good boy, buddy.